What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today I am here with a little bit of a warning, and the warning is very simple, ladies and gentlemen. Stop buying singles from BT7. You see, the reason is rather simple. BT7, we've just had the pre-releases, and so cards are out there. People have gone to pre-releases, people have been opening up cards, people are now able to go and sell those cards. You can buy booster boxes at pre-releases in Digimon, in some places at least, and that means that some people have quite a few cards. Some people have got cards a little bit early. There are plenty of them out there being sold. But the set has not actually properly released. That's going to happen on Friday. So essentially, we're in this super awkward period at the moment where if you want to buy the cards, you can, but you're going to be paying over the odds. Now, there are a few caveats we need to post before we get going here. I am not talking about the pre-release stamped cards. I have gone and bought one card from BT7 as a single, and the card I've gone and bought was the pre-release stamped Electric Rush. And to be fair, I'm super honest with you guys in these videos. I told you all I was going to go and buy a pre-release promo of a pre-release stamped Electric Rush because I love Pulsemon, and this is the only, and the Pulsemon in the set is a common, and all the other versions. Basically, there's nowhere in the set that you can get a stamped pre-release Pulsemon or anything in the Pulsemon line other than Electric Rush. So I went and got that one. Bought it for £5 posted from a lovely dude on Facebook, which is about the going rate for your standard pre-release cards. As another little side note, the pre-release card that everybody wants is your Jet Sylphimon, because it's absolutely amazing in yellow hybrid decks. If you manage to pull the pre-release Jet Sylphimon, the stamped one, do not let that one go cheap. That's the most sought after one. And the reason why you can all go and buy these now is because they're pre-release cards, and frankly, the pre-releases have happened, so these are going to get rarer and rarer and harder to find. Pre-release cards, the ones stamped with the pre-release stamp, you do need to try and go and get as soon after pre-release as you can, because they're not always around for that long. Some of them you can go and get nice and easily, but some of them are going to get more awkward. Going on eBay now, you can still get a bunch of the BT4 stamped pre-release cards for around about $5 or less, which is lovely, but that is not always, it's not always a guarantee, quite frankly, especially if cards end up being really good. So my point is, those ones are fine. But other cards, frankly, if you buy now, you're paying over the odds. Now, I will be honest with you, it is not as stark a difference as we see over in the Pokemon TCG. In the Pokemon TCG, between pre-release and the release of the set is dumb. Absolutely stupid, over the top dumb. To take an example, there was a recent set, Fusion Strike, which was released in November, and one of the most sought after cards, one of like the top 3 cards in the set in terms of value, was the alternate art Mew V Max. And there were people that bought it right after the pre-release who should frankly feel a little bit silly. Because after the pre-release, on November the 9th, between the pre-release and the release of the set proper, that card was selling for over $300. When I looked the other day, about 3 months later, the card is selling for $70. So it's gone from over $300 to $70. That is a stark difference. We don't see the same thing in Digimon, at least not most of the time, but there is still the difference there. So let's take a look at some of the cards from BT6, which is obviously the most recent set, which is, come out and been out for a while. Number 1 card in that set, the Beelstarmon alternate art. That is the one that everybody's after. And around about in December time, and I know that wasn't the release of BT6, but unfortunately, you can't go back and look at eBay at release. So in December, a little while ago now, Beelstarmon was a $70 card. You're talking about selling for $70. That is all about right. It's not terrible for the most sought after card in the set. But if we go a little bit more recent, if we jump forward a little bit in time, the last couple of sales were like $61 and $54. And yes, I know that's not a huge amount of money, but that's still, it is a decent whack. You're talking kind of 10 to 20% off just by waiting a couple of months, and bearing in mind these were the December prices. When the set launched in October, it was a little bit higher. We could do the same thing with System on Seal. Now, the alternate art of System on Seal, of course, is a very interesting card, given that, well, it doesn't exist in Japan. So people in Asian territories are very much going to want to be on this because it's a card they can't have. So, interestingly enough, if you are in a position to trade with people who are using Japanese cards, great trade bait, just putting that out there. And back in December, you'd be paying around about $50-ish for this card. We got a sold for $45 and a sold for $60, but best offer accepted, so, somewhere around there. So that's what you were paying back in December. But if you flick forward to February, what are you paying? $30, $35. That's a difference. And again, you're talking about a third, which you might not care about. I know some people don't, and that's absolutely fine. But still, this is kind of relevant, ladies and gentlemen. This is kind of relevant. As one more example, we could take a little bit of a look at System on Blank, the other System on in the set. Back in December, you're paying about $35. Nowadays, you can pick it up for as low as $20. Now, this one is actually the lowest difference between them, but it's still a difference. And the thing to remember is, now annoyingly, eBay will only let me go back 90 days, so I can't get the sales figures from when it actually came out back in October. But I can tell you they were higher. And my point is, why would you do that? At the moment, the prices are about as high as they're going to get. Now, there are exceptions. The exceptions essentially are for hyper-playable cards. Hyper-playable cards might not come down too much, and that is a risk we take. If cards are stupid playable, they don't tend to come down. But remember, we've got a pretty fast-moving metagame in the Digimon TCG. So, something like Jesmon, if you look at Jesmon a couple of months ago, that was a crazy good deck, seeing a dumb amount of play. And then the ban list came in, and BT7 came out, and frankly, Jesmon is not what it once was. So if you were picking up the alternate art Jesmon for your collection, doing it as BT6 launched, at the height of the hype, was stupid. Again, there are exceptions, we'll get there in a moment, don't worry, I'm not actually insulting anyone, I'll explain in a moment. Whereas, waiting a couple of months and picking that up when it's not so important, when you've got a bit of time, that is a whole different deal. I mean, nowadays, I can go and buy that alternate art Jesmon for like $20. That was not the case when it was the best card in the set. When it was the most playable card, the top deck and all of that, it was not the same, ladies and gentlemen. That was selling for a fair bit more. So how do we deal with something like Susanumon in BT7? I still think this is the worst time to buy. Now, there are obviously exceptions. The exceptions are if you're going to physical tournaments. Because if you're going to physical tournaments, you're going to need physical cards. And it's all very well and good me sitting there going, oh, hold on, ladies and gentlemen, don't buy them yet. But you may well be sitting there going, Wassy, what am I supposed to do? And the fact of the matter is, if you're going to be playing a Susanumon deck, you're going to need that card. So you're going to need to pay. And there's not much you can do about it. I am not talking about people who need these cards for decks. If you need the cards for decks, you need the cards for decks. Right now, you'll be paying, on February the 28th, somebody paid $60 for a Susanumon. Now, that's a little bit of an outlier because the other two we've got there are 35 best offer accepted and 50 best offer accepted, which is obviously a bit lower. But just a couple of days ago, somebody went and paid over $85 for the alternate art. And this is going to come down in price. Now, like I say, Susanumon is an awkward example because it looks like a hyper-playable card, so the price isn't going to come down like we saw with Jesmon. It's not going to come down too much until we actually get to the stage where it's not so playable, people aren't loving it so much, and we can, see people not caring. Then the price is going to come down. But buying it between the pre-release and the release of the set, when hype is huge because it's a new set and people want to play with a new card, and supply is as low as it's ever going to be while there's still some supply out there, I'm not sure that's a particularly good idea, ladies and gentlemen. That is, well, frankly, that's not the kind of thing I would be rushing to do, I think is fair to say. And certainly other cards that aren't looking quite so hyper-playable, it's not something I'd be going into. You know, we could look at something like the Metal Greymon alternate art from BT7, and one sold for $8, and that seems fairly sensible, but one sold for $25. This is not a $25 card. So, to sum it up, the rule from Wassy is quite simple. Do not buy cards between the pre-release and the release of the set, unless you've got a very good reason, like you need them for a deck for a tournament coming up, etc. Wait for the release of the set when everything is out there far more, when the stock is much better, when the supply is better, when the prices are inevitably coming down. That is far more important. The obvious exception to this is, of course, your pre-release stamped cards, which could be awkward to find if you don't get them sooner rather than later. Some of them will be easy to find on eBay, but because there's only so many people going to pre-releases and there's quite a few different ones you can get, it's not the kind of thing I would wait on personally. But the fact of the matter is, this is the worst time to buy singles for BT7. Literally the worst time. Hold on if you can, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on if you can. But for now, and if you can, I'm not going to judge you, right? We all know sometimes you can't, and that is absolutely fine. No judgment here. I wanted the alternate art of Pulsemon as a nice example. That's the one that came around in BT6. I wanted that alternate art. That is the alternate art I've wanted more than any released. And on release, people were asking £30, £40 in Facebook groups for that. I paid 12. I didn't get it for a couple of weeks. I had to wait a couple of weeks, but I literally saw people paying 30, 40 quid for that around about the pre-release. I picked it up for 12. And honestly, nowadays, I could probably pick it up a little bit cheaper. Hold your horse if you can, ladies and gentlemen. And if you can, no judgment here. But I want to hear from you guys. What are you excited about from BT7? Which cards are you going to be picking up? Which ones are on your list? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy. That's where we talk Digimon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wassy Plays.